Welcome, everyone. This is the MasterClass. My name is Patricknazareth. I have around 30 years of experience in teaching, and I would like to help dispel your doubts, should you have any. Today, we are going to study the chapter Advice to Youth, written by Mark Twain. Mark Twain was his pen name. His actual name was Samuel Leghorn Clemens. He was born in 1835 and died in 1910 in Missouri, America. He is considered a foremost humorist and social critic of the 19th century. He used to first work as a riverboat pilot on the Mississippi River before turning to writing. The experiences he gained on the river gave him an intimate knowledge of American society. He came to know different social classes and different regions. He has written best-selling novels like The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Both of them combine humor with serious social commentary. His choice, satire, which he used to critique American society. He especially spoke up against racism, social hypocrisy, and moral pretension. Do you remember how everyone keeps on telling you what is right and what is wrong? Mark Twain has been asked to deliver moral instruction to a young audience. He's supposed to educate them on good policies to be followed in life, on ethics and good moral values. So he starts his lecture with the obvious, conventional wisdom about obeying your parents. He says we should listen to our parents. But immediately he turns away and begins to make fun of what he has said, because as he points out, every parent thinks they know more than you. And you must let them go on believing it, because if you don't listen to them, the first thing that will happen is they will get upset, cut off your allowance, or not give you money to do what you want to. He also points out the importance of giving obedience to people who are your seniors, even strangers. But he goes on to say he's not in favor of violence at all. But if somebody were to say something that you disagree with, hit him on the head with a brick. If you were wrong in hitting him, you can always apologize later. That will actually show you have the ability, the courage to apologize. If you are right, then there's no need to apologize at all, is there? He goes on to say that you must have heard about going early to bed and getting up early with the lark. He says rising early is a good thing. But if you have to rise with the lark, try and get a pet lark. Train it to get up at 9 or so. And then you can safely and truthfully say that I got up with the lark. Remember, don't lie, because he says lying is not for those people who have not practiced how to lie. Bear in mind, once you are caught, you lose the trust that people have in you. He says a proper lie is such a lie that it goes on being believed, even if it is not the truth. He gives us the example of a statue of a man in Boston. The statue is a person who was supposed to have invented anesthesia. We know now it is not true. Somebody else has invented it. But do we remember the actual person who has invented it? No, we don't. Because we see the statue, we see this plaque saying that this gentleman has invented anesthesia, and we believe it. Hence, we go on believing in what is essentially a lie. We do not believe in the truth. In those days, firearms were a necessary part of life. So he goes on to talk about firearms. He says the most important things about firearms that you have to understand is that firearms need to be kept loaded. You pick up a gun, you never pull the trigger because it should be loaded. He goes on to give the example of a grandmother. Her grandson found an old rusted musket. He pointed it at her. She began to run. She was terrified. If he pulled the trigger, she would be killed. He did pull the trigger. He pointed it at her. He stuck it up against her breast. What happened? Well, luckily the gun was not loaded, so the grandmother did not die. But there have been so many instances of people pulling triggers of guns that they thought was unloaded and killing people. He imagines if the Battle of Waterloo, which was fought between the British and the French, the Duke of Wellington defeated Napoleon, were to be fought between two armies, one consisting of grandsons and the other consisting of grandmothers. There's not a grandson alive who could ever miss their grandmothers. They could miss hitting a church, miss hitting a barn door. But you give them a gun and ask them to shoot, they would unerringly hit them. He goes on to suggest that people should read. He suggests books of values, on saints, about religion. And then he goes on to add his own book called Innocents Abroad. He finishes his lecture. He concludes on the note that if you do tend to follow his advice, you will find that everyone around you and you yourself are exactly the same. There is nothing to distinguish one of you from the other. Who are the characters in the story? The narrator, Twain himself. He presents himself as a wise and experienced person, but instead of offering them proper guidance, he's purposely offering them unreliable advice. The other people in the lecture, the audience. They don't speak, but we assume they're hearing the lecture. What about the setting then? All we know that it appears to be a meeting hall or perhaps a similar type of venue where a large amount of people can gather. The specific location is not given, purposely so, because it is meant for young people everywhere, all around the world. What are the literary devices at play here? The first person narrator, an unreliable person who pretends to be serious. We can say it is first person because the lecture itself starts with I. There is irony and satire. The whole essay works by ensuring that Mark Twain is giving bad advice, even while pretending he is giving good advice. That is both unreliable, not just making fun of the regular moral rules of society that tell you what is right and what is wrong, but he is also pointing out in his own way that adults themselves act like hypocrites. They do not follow their own rules. There is paradox. Mark Twain deliberately says opposite things. He tells people to avoid fighting, but also tells people to hit others with bricks. He tells them to be honest, but is equally informing them how to lie. There is hyperbole, exaggerated scenarios, like the story about the grandmother, or the funny story about Waterloo, a very important battle, but not the way he says it. There's a mock heroic tone. The way the author talks about bad or even silly actions, it's like they're great and noble ones, especially when he calls lying, to quote him, a gracious and beautiful art. Anecdotal evidence. He makes up or stretches the truth, like he talks about the grandmother and the gun, in order to give more strength to the advice he is giving. There's juxtaposition or contrast. He mixes very good words, good morals, good ideas with bad suggestions, just so that we can understand how ridiculous the whole idea is. What are the themes presented? The most important, the hypocrisy of social conventions. Society is always telling us to be honest, to be respectful of our seniors, to practice good morals, how to always be good and not to be bad. But then we see adults in front of us, and what are they doing? They themselves are acting dishonestly. They themselves are disrespectful. So why are they telling us to do something which they themselves do not do? Then we look at the corruption of innocence. What is the lecture making a joke about? It says that moral studies, by learning about morals, by learning about good and bad, it actually makes young people worse. Why? It teaches them to hide their real motives. It makes them fake. Instead of saying they don't like somebody, they say they like somebody, and then they purposely go ahead and hurt that person. There is truth and morality. Twain is talking about lying, and he's trying to make us understand that this obsession that society has, that everyone around us has, with telling us that you need to tell the truth, this is more complicated. It's more hypocritical. It's more two-faced than what society would have us believe. Lying, or telling the truth even, is much more complex than we understand. There is the critique of authority. What is this piece explaining to us? It's asking us to think for ourselves. Is it always the case that adults are correct? Is it always the case that traditional wisdom is always right? It's trying to suggest to us that most of what adults tell us as children are actually lies, or based on them. There is conformity versus individuality. Check out the ending line. Character like everybody else's. All moral teaching does is to make everyone behave the same, but it doesn't change them. Instead of actually focusing on helping young people like you become truly good, truly beautiful persons, it focuses on trying to make you behave as if you are good. That's the lesson there for you then. I do hope I have been able to help. If I have, please remember to like, subscribe and share. There would be others who would be needing our help. Thank you so much for watching.